That's right. I'm back in the New York groove, and we're back from our cruise. And here's a little look at how the coming back portion of the thing looked. As far as I got, because I'll tell you what, once we got to JFK, everything had been fine, but when we got back to JFK, things came off the rails. In fact, from the time we landed until the time we got in a cab was an hour and a half. And let me tell you why. It's all the fault of the plane that we took. Now, we rode an Air France Super Jumbo. It's an A380. It's one of these double-decker things. We were up on the upper deck. Now, the problem with a plane that big is that they got to use the longest runway that there is, and you end up taxiing all over the place. It's very hard to maneuver that plane on the ground. The second thing is the plane carries something over 500 passengers. So if you think about it, that's at least 500 pieces of luggage and probably the better part of 1,000, if not over 1,000. We spent a long time waiting for bags. Global entry worked fine, but waiting for the luggage took just plain forever. Now, the airplane had one super cool feature, I thought. And that is, it had cameras on the outside of the airplane. It had one in the nose that didn't work. It had one pointing straight down at the ground, which didn't work. But it had a third one, which was mounted on the top of the tail. And what it did was it looked ahead and looked down the length of the fuselage, and you could watch everything that was going on with the airplane when it was, flying or landing. Very, very cool feature. But otherwise, I don't want to ride on a big plane again. It's too many problems with it. Now, I got to do a couple of follow-up items. First off, I mentioned to you that there were 2 and possibly 3 deaths on this cruise. I mentioned that in last week's recap. And despite our best efforts at investigating this, a cone of silence descended over this ship. Now, I'm not going to say that there was a cover-up going on. Could have very well have been, but certainly, and I'm not going to accuse Viking of that, but what I will say is there a great deal of a lack of transparency in letting us know just what happened. Now, also in last week's recap, I mentioned to you that somebody had a heart attack and was removed from the airplane. I said I had video of them going into the ambulance. I neglected to include it in the recap, but here it is. Now, also as a follow-up, and several of you have asked me, and this was a thing that I was really interested in, was when we got to Berlin, I really wanted to see the Führer bunker, the place where Adolf Hitler committed suicide. And I knew from looking at YouTube, I know that it's there, and I know that there's a marker on the spot. And because we're in East Berlin, what had been East Berlin, we should be able to see it. 2 tour guides knew nothing about it. I had very poor internet connection, so I couldn't Google the location. And no tourist map that I could find showed it. So I think that what the Berlin government or the German government is doing is trying not to highlight this thing and turn it into some kind of a tourist attraction. Well, quite frankly, I was disappointed with it. I've been doing a lot of videos, and if you've been following this channel, you're seeing them. I got some more to go because it was a long tour. We went to a lot of places. But anyway, now we're back. We're back in business, and that kind of does it for this week. We'll see you next week. Take care.
And baby, you better believe I'm back in New York.